let's move on. I'm actually really excited about this conversation. I'm not sure how this is going to go. I think it's interesting. We're going to see. I'll put up a graphic here for you guys to see kind of what we're looking at right now. But this is the projected, and this is all projected. This is all on spotrac.com. You can go check it out straight from the website if you want. Spotrac.com has the projected 2022 cap space, right? And obviously all these things are going to change with re-signings and things like that. But I do think it's interesting because when you look at, and I want to frame this conversation before we really get into it, so just give me a second to hop on my soapbox here. When you look at like NFL teams, we always talk about teams in their Super Bowl window, or like, has their window started? Has their window ended? Like that's always been a common conversation. We talk about it all the time, right? So I want to look at it like, okay, can we use this cap space as like a small indicator? And it's not the end all be all by any means. We know that. It's just a small indicator for how long do some of these windows really last? Are windows going to be opening up for teams that we think are on the rebound, that are going to have the chance to bring in some good talent? Like all of these kind of things. I just think it's interesting. I want to start off with the bottom of the excuse me, I'm sorry, I lost all the word. The projected cap space for 2021. And the Green Bay Packers are 32nd, very last place. They are projected to be $33 million over cap. So negative $33 million. Terrible. Now we've talked about the Aaron Rodgers thing. Everybody's talked about the Aaron Rodgers thing. Let's put that to bed for a second. Let's assume everything, gets ironed out. Things get copacetic. Let's put that on the back burner for just a second and say, we can realistically say the past 2 years they've been in a Super Bowl window. If you make it to the NFC Championship, you win 12 games the past 2 years in a row.
I think if you make it to divisional,
you're in your window, right?
Is a successful season, yeah,
absolutely. So they've been in their window for 2 years. Is it fair to say that after this season, because the roster didn't change very much, they re-signed just about everybody? Is it fair to say that after this year, their window is over?
No, I mean there's ways that they can move the money around and balance the books, but right now, it's just some of their moves don't add up. The paying Aaron Jones, what they paid him after using a second-round pick on an A.J. Dillon, who, we didn't really see A.J. Dillon much, but there were flashes, I guess.
Definitely at the end of the year for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where it made sense. It was like, I see what they're doing now. They have the running back who's about to hit free agency. They're saving the fresh legs till later on in the year. And then they go pay him $15 million or $14.5 and change whatever they paid Aaron Jones.
Overpaid a running back.
Overpaid him to be sitting here looking at negative $33 million when you haven't even paid a top 3 corner in the NFL in Jair Alexander yet. Stable piece to your defense. You take him away. I look at the Packers differently as a whole. You take a few pieces out of those Packers team away. We're talking different, man. They're still in their window. I'm sure they're still going to be able to figure out how to get it going. As long as Aaron Rodgers is a Packer, they will have a window. I stand
that's
by that.
Fair. And that's totally fair. Aaron Rodgers is the ultimate equalizer.
I think there's a few people in the NFL that have that kind of power
of course.
Yeah.
Now, but I will admit, like, for them to be in this kind of cap situation, I am surprised, because I do think if you take Aaron Rodgers away, they still have a really good offensive line. Nobody talks about that, but they do. They have a really good offensive line, and it got better in the draft. They signed a center that I think is going to be their starter, so I can give them that. But beyond that, I mean, they have one great wide receiver, they have a good running back, and they have some pieces on defense, but I don't think it's like it's not super special. It is not
a roster worthy to be in the bottom. Bottom 20.
It's kind of strange, and we're not going to get into everybody they're paying because we want this to kind of be an overview conversation. We'd certainly do that and really, map it out on who they're paying bad, but I feel like that would be bad content for the most part. So it's strange to see them at the very bottom. It'll be interesting to see the moves they make, but at this point, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, they're trying to pay Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers wants that contract, wants a extension and all that, and I guess he's already under contract. His contract for next year is being accounted into this, so that will be an interesting conversation, to say the least, however that ends up working out. But I agree, if Aaron Rodgers is there, the window is still open, and then maybe that's 1,000% fair. Let's move on to the next team, who picked 10th overall in the NFL draft, had a struggling year, obviously lost their quarterback. I'm talking about the Dallas Cowboys, who are $29 million over the cap for the 2022 season, and I mean, I look at that roster as really good. I mean, I get where that money's going, but very interesting. And their window hasn't even opened. Is it going to?
Yeah, I mean it's Dallas, and when you pay, you have number one wide receiver being paid like a number one wide receiver. Mm-hmm. You have the running back who at one point was the number one running back, the quarterback who just re-upped, and he's up there in the top 5, I know. And then all these defensive, DeMarcus Lawrence is a stud at what he does at his position.
Yeah.
You have this linebacker core now, which in my head is why they drafted Parsons now.
Yeah, they had to.
It is the exact reason, because they know that they need that depth at linebacker right there to afford, because they're not going to pick up a Van Der Esch option.
They're definitely not going to pick up a Van Der Esch option. He's had too many injuries, and I think the sideline to sideline range isn't quite what they want. And they want, this is a team, and you look at like the defensive coordinator they brought in. It's their ex-head coach from Atlanta, so they're realistically probably going to be that Seattle type of scheme. You need faster linebackers. Van Der Esch doesn't really fit that system, and Parsons does. They also grabbed another rangy linebacker in the 4th round. Yeah. It was Cox, Jabril Cox from LSU. Thank you. Just another guy. I think Van Der Esch is going to be gone, and I don't think they're going to pay Jalen Smith either.
I don't think that I'm sure they might want to pay Jalen Smith. I love what Jalen Smith's able to do, but I don't know if they can. That's what there's certain things that when you handcuff yourself to some of these offensive weapons like you do,
you have to.
There's a certain world where I would have let Amari Cooper go.
I absolutely would have let Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's not worth the contract he's getting.
And to be fair, I guess they didn't expect a CeeDee Lamb to be there where he was.
No,
they weren't ready for that at all. So when that happened, they kind of had to do that mainly to, cock block the Eagles and not let them do that, and also get what you're getting there. But Amari Cooper is being
$20 million a year. Yeah, $20 million a year right now. That's his base salary, and I just pulled it up just to kind of look. $22 million cap hit. I mean, he's getting paid a lot of money, and there's nothing they could do about it right now. I get it. You spent a first round pick on Amari Cooper. I mean, you traded a first round pick for him, so you spent a first round pick on him. You felt like you kind of had to pay him.
Good wide receiver.
They pay him, and then then they're sitting there. They're wanting everything I've heard at least is that they really wanted the guy who went to the Jaguars. I can't think of his name.
I'm talking about a defensive back.
Defensive.
CJ Henderson.
No. He went to the Jaguars.
This year?
No, in the 2020 draft. He's out of LSU. Got that weird name. Claylavon Chase. I had it on the tip of my tongue too. They really wanted him, but they didn't expect a CeeDee Lamb to be there. I would assume they had their board as CeeDee Lamb, the top wide receiver, and they just couldn't pass up on the value there. And I get it. I mean, I loved CeeDee Lamb, but it's going to be interesting to see how he affects how long Amari Cooper stays in Dallas. Probably not much longer.
Considering we just went from the Packers talking about how they actually have a window at 32 to the Cowboys at 31, who were picking top 10 for a reason. Cowboys have a lot of things that I can see promising.
They need help defensively, and they attacked it in draft.
They need help in that secondary a lot.
And the offensive line's gotten older too, so it's just strange to see them.
They've lost a lot of that offensive line to just random circumstances too. It sucks.
Yeah, so I don't know. I look at this team. I feel like they're not, even though they did pay a Dak. I don't look at the way they're structured as a team that I'm really worried about as making a deep playoff run. And I guess we already knew that, but we're talking a year ago. They were a team that everyone thought we did too. We bought into the hype.
That's the thing, is that they've been a team for a long time.
Every offseason, yeah, I absolutely agree. And in that division, all you have to do is get past Washington, and I mean, we don't know who's playing quarterback for Washington this year. Probably Minkah Fitzpatrick, or not Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Ryan
Fitzpatrick. I can't talk.
I think it's going to be Heineke.
You think it's Heineke? Yeah. And we'll see. Hey, maybe it is Heineke. I'd love that underdog story. But moving on, Giants are under cap. I don't want to talk about every single team that's under cap, so we'll move on. Giants are under cap. Rams $16 million over the cap. Giants are also over the cap. Sorry, I misspoke there. Rams, obviously, they pay everybody, so it's very interesting the way the Rams are structured. And do you have any thoughts there? You want to talk about them at all?
I like the way the Rams build their team. I'm serious. I do.
Okay.
Listen.
That's a difference in. Actually, let's get into it because I think that's interesting.
It's a difference in overall mentality of how to build teams.
Okay.
And I've changed a lot over the years too. Whenever it comes to where you start building your team and looking at the infrastructure and building inside, as in big boys out, working on that stuff. But listen, I have no problem with trading a late first round pick for a guy that I know and I've already seen that potential be developed and hit. You still have to deal with the chemistry. You still have to deal with the fact, can it be a plug and play? You work in our system and scheme. The Rams are a good football team.
They are,
We're talking 3 years now, right, being out of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the reason they didn't win that Super Bowl is because of Jared Goff. I can 110%.
Matthew Stafford's there, they win that game. Matthew Stafford's there. They win that
Super
game.
Bowl. And if we're measuring this victory, that first-round pick, maybe that first-round pick 3 years ago that didn't work out for that guy that you traded for, that's happened.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. If you get a Lombardi for it, I'm telling you, I'm a Vikings fan. I would do any amount of picks for just one Lombardi.
Yeah.
I stand by that. I don't care what it jeopardizes in the future, because you know what? Our future at the going state is not winning Lombardis. If we jeopardize that already to get something done like the Rams have been doing, Matt Stafford, if he gets them over the hump and they win a Lombardi, I don't think people can criticize the way they built that team.
Yeah. And again, I don't criticize it. They are zigging when everyone else is zagging. I will say that.
Of course, it's very different.
And I think the Seahawks are another team that, like, they don't value first round picks the way I feel like the rest of the league does in a strange way. And look, I get it. If you are a team that feels like you're a couple pieces away, you feel like you're an offensive coordinator who's always going to have your team in the right position, right situation to at least be competitive. You only need some of those big name pieces. Hey. Look, it worked for them. They were a good fucking team last year. They struggled with injuries. Their offense could not get off the ground passing wise, and that was a Jared Goff. Jared Goff struggled last year. There's no other way to say it. That's why they moved on. So yeah, but I don't know. It feels like they're a team that's built on a house of cards, though. It feels like their structure is built so top heavy, and I totally get what you're saying. But if you miss. And if one of your big name, if Jalen Ramsey, God forbid, knock on wood, all those things went down this year, then you're spending 22, 25 million, whatever it is, on a guy who can't play. If God forbid 2 players on your defense go down, that's what, 50 million of your cap? 25% of your cap is gone. It's on the back.
Click on it.
Yeah, I'm going to click on it.
It shows cap percentage with the way that it's based.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I look at it like that, and you're right. Okay, so 13% going to Aaron Donald, 12% going to 12%. That was exactly right.
25% of
that's
your team.
25% of your team. 2 players on the defense is 25% of your team. Quarterbacks should be about 10 to 12%. So Matthew Stafford getting 12% of your team, not bad at all. Leonard Floyd getting 10% of your team, come on, that's overpaying. That's over. And granted, maybe they feel like they're a piece away. I get that. Cooper Kupp, look, I like Cooper Kupp a lot.
I think they have a lot
getting
of good
9% of your
on
team,
cheaper
though?
deals, though. I look at a guy like Taylor Rapp at safety. Taylor Rapp is a very serviceable safety who fits in there for just a budget deal for now. The
thing that they live and die on is the fact that they are really good at drafting in the mid rounds, and they don't value picks. You look at their draft. I did a draft profile or the draft breakdown on it, and I talked about all of the trade backs that they do and all those things.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're going to trade your first round picks, but you have to be able to hit on those mid round picks, and they feel like they have the right scouting department. They feel like they're good at finding those guys that fit their scheme, and doesn't always match what like the media or what like I would say the value is, but it doesn't fucking matter because they hit. They hit constantly.
I am team pro Rams trading picks away right now, but I don't like their second round picks that they do. I love a
so many wide receivers,
but I don't like a Van Jefferson, and I really don't like Tutu Atwell in the second. I'm sorry, I can see the upside behind these players. The reason I say upside is that you don't take an upside in the second round right there. Whenever there's other names on the board in those certain areas, and you have. You can't afford that commodity of the wide receiver pick when you need the depth pick at interior defensive lineman, or you need that linebacker pick or anything like that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
So there's certain ways Seattle does the same thing. I'm okay with Seattle trading away their picks though, because it's going to be somebody that we don't know anyways. I'm sorry,
saves us from when we do the live stream.
I think there's a lot of Seattle fans that out there would agree with that too. But
they made 2 picks this draft. They made 2 picks. I mean, that's crazy.
It's a different mentality, and I think you nailed it with the Rams and Seattle really having that mentality. But if it gets Lombardis, Seattle got one. Mm-hmm. One, right? It was only one.
Seattle got one. Yeah,
one.
Crazy that it was only one.
Made it to 2. Yeah, they made it to 2.
It was only one,
but wasn't able to get that done.
Yeah, didn't run the ball.
If the Rams are able to do that, if the Rams are able to get a Lombardi after the Stafford and all this stuff, you can keep all the other. It's worth it.
Yeah. I love how this conversation kind of devolved, kind of molded into something different. But I really like it. I think this is kind of fun to me.
Success is measured in Lombardies.
Of course. So let's move on. A couple other teams that are over the cap right now: Falcons, Saints, Browns, Texans. God, Texans are over the cap. That's crazy. I'm going to click on this just real quick.
You're fine. Yeah, because
I'm curious what they're spending the money on.
Teams right now, this is 25 through 28. They're about 4 or 5 million over. You can manage that. That's breathable. There are certain moves you can restructure, you can cut, you can do. You're breathable. The other teams were in cap hell borderline.
Man, let's talk about let's just talk about the Texans spending 8% of their cap on a Brandon Cooks, spending 7, and this is the last organization, so I'm not blaming the current Texans, but just they're spending $11 million a year on Bradley Roby this year. They brought that in. That's new. That's a new contract.
That is a new one.
That's a 1-year deal.
Shaq Lawson, $10 million. Randall Cobb, $10.25 million.
Ridiculous.
For Randall Cobb. Whitney Merciless Slowbutt, $7 million. Eric Murray, 6.7.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. The way they're spending their money is so crazy.
I think they're saying that we have it. We're just going to give it and get you out.
and granted, you're also paying Deshaun Watson 20.1% of your cap.
That's only 42 active players.
Yeah, damn, that's crazy. Oh man, which again, this is all,
Man, I think we have slowly evolved into a shit on Texans podcast.
Oh God, I hate it. I hate it so much. But I mean, yeah, kind of. All right, let's move on to the top. All right, let's look at teams that are looking pretty good for 2021. The Pittsburgh Steelers. And for all we talked about, they're trying to make one more run with Big Ben. They paid all these guys. We're gonna get one more. We're gonna try and push one more time, make a Super Bowl with Big Ben, get one more under their belt, and maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. But man, they're in a good spot next year for either paying a big time free agent quarterback or trading up. They have a bunch of assets in cap space, at least $70 million projected cap space in 2021. And obviously, they're going to have to pay some guys. It's never going to be actually this high. But I do think it's interesting just to talk about some of these top names. Like, does the Steelers window really close when Big Ben hangs it up?
Depending on what moves they make. I mean, you got to go target that quarterback. But, look at names like a Matt Stafford who was just able to be moved in the offseason. If Pittsburgh is able to land that same caliber guy, more than capable with that money right there.
Absolutely.
More than capable. Their window might open bigger.
Yeah.
Big Ben, and, I respect him. He's a legend of the game and very, very good, capable quarterback still. But with this cap, there's ways that you can push this team even further.
Yeah. This is 2021, but yes, absolutely. Yeah.
They're primed for success in the future with a good young core of a roster, an aging quarterback. But I think it's weird to think a lot of times when you have that aging quarterback, you don't have the cap to line up with that. I look at the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
You really throw it all out there to invest in it and get it going. Yeah. Indianapolis Colts at number 2.
Their window's wide open.
Their window is wide open, and they have 68. That's only $2 million separating 1 and 2.
That's after paying Carson Wentz too. $68 million available after paying Carson Wentz. That's ridiculous.
And what if they get the Carson Wentz that works because the 2017 coach, it all makes sense again.
Yeah.
What if they get that same form? This could be.
I think there's a real possibility he comes back to old form. I really do.
And they could be the guys for a long time.
Yeah. We're talking about, you look at the AFC South, feels like the Titans took a step back. I think we both agree on that. Just with some of their free agent moves, they lost a lot of pieces there. But then you look at the Jaguars obviously taking a big step forward with the draft and kind of having a new range.
What happens?
It could be the Colts division for the next couple of years. It really could. Just depending on how it works with Carson Wentz. That's obviously the end all be all. I get the Bengals, another team. It seems like they never really spend money though, so we'll see what happens there. Dolphins, I think, are another interesting team. 4th highest cap space, projected cap space for 2022, and they give some moves to be made. And I feel like they have a really good roster.
I was going to say rant and rave on them, bro. It's okay. It's your team.
Listen, and obviously, I am a Dolphins fan and all those other things. It all is dependent on Tua this year. All the pieces are in place. We have the wide receiver core. We are 3 good wide receivers in that football team. Obviously, finished up with a Jalen Waddle at 6 overall, great pick, right? We have. I feel like I genuinely believe a Jalen Phillips is going to be the centerpiece of that defense in the next couple of years. I think he's that kind of guy. I really believe that, and I could be wrong there. But you look at that defense as a whole; they're built through their DBs, and when you have, they're 3-4 deep on DBs as far as like guys that can. You have the top two paid cornerbacks in the league right now. Still have the cap space to afford them, and then we have some younger guys that I trust on islands. Not against some of the top wide receivers in the NFL.
But they're 3rd and 4.
But at 3rd and 4, yeah, I trust them on islands. They want to play man to man and do a lot of unique things with their linebackers and defensive ends. It doesn't even matter if Jalen Phillips hits or not. I think they're going to be a really dangerous football team. They were last year. Their defense was really good last year, and I think they finished up bringing in the last couple pieces that they needed to bring in to really be that Patriots defense in the South. We call them the South Patriots for a reason, and it all does depend on can Tua develop. If he can. If he can, I mean, we got some money next year. We can afford to go buy a big running back if our running back situation doesn't improve. We didn't really address it with any serious money or picks or anything like that this past year. We can afford to go get a top lineman if we need to. Whatever we need going into next year, because you got to remember, this is the third year of a 3-year rebuild, right? So this year wasn't supposed to be awesome. This is the year that we're supposed to see some success, maybe flirt with playoffs. We're ahead of schedule because we were flirting with playoffs last year when we weren't supposed to be. It's really supposed to be the 2020 season where we're supposed to be competitive and really good. That was always the plan the whole time from, going back a couple years ago when we were doing the rebuild and we were terrible. So we're on schedule. We're actually ahead of schedule. And I mean, we have a lot of moves that can be made. Pay anybody that we need to pay that's on the roster, whatever we need to do. We're going to be able to, if Tua hits and Tua is awesome, we're going to be able to afford him and still have a roster around him to be good. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this is what happens when you have a lot of young early picks. Like you get a lot of picks in the draft and you hit on them or they do well. That's what happens. You start to look pretty good cap space wise.
Yeah, exactly, because you have them under that budget deal for the time that you do.
It was 4 years.
I dedicate this season outside in looking from not being a Dolphins fan, of course, seeing it as, yes, this is the year for Tua. I think no matter what happens, I do not pull the plug on him. I let him go out there for better or
17
worse.
games. Let's see it.
17 games, and we see it. We see the good, the bad, the ugly. Mm-hmm. We see the bad. I want to see how he handles the bad. Can he turn the bad into good? Can he turn the ugly 2 weeks in a row and bounce back from that? Any of those things, because it just so happens that the teams at 3 and 5 are the Bengals and Chargers, who it looks like they have hit with their quarterbacks. I'm not saying anything.
Hey, no, you're not. You're not wrong.
They have hit though.
You're not wrong.
You need to see what he is.
What do we
he
have?
Isn't.
Yeah.
For better or worse, so you can, because you're primed right now for this spot. Let's say all this Deshaun stuff clears. Let's just say it does. You can pay him. You can make him the number one paid quarterback.
We still technically have assets, not as many as we did, obviously. This past offseason.
If he wants out or they want him gone, you can pay the number one play.
We can afford to pay him. We can afford to pay him. We could send Tua over there, and we could give 3 first-round picks over the next 2 years to go get him. I mean, yeah, we have just as many assets as anybody else.
Isn't even a fraction of that, but
yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's why you need to dedicate this year, figure out what he is or isn't. So maybe you can move on and go forward, because
you're making me happy. I'm glad I'm not crazy.
I would hate to see such a good young roster turn into just getting aged, and you pay the guy that you probably shouldn't here and there. That happens with every single team.
Mm-hmm.
Right now you have a window, and man, it's opening, and you're finally getting the air. You're finally getting it as a Dolphins fan.
And by the way, I mean, let's just talk about one last thing before we move on. You want to talk about how to rebuild, how to build a roster from the bottom up. I think the Dolphins, they just taught a masterclass to the rest of the NFL on how to attack the draft, how to attack free agency, how to take a team that was in the gutter, terrible. We knew we were bad. Everybody knew we were bad. How to take a gutter football team, band together, take every player that remember that 2019 offseason. Every player that wasn't buying in, every player that had an issue, all of these things. Yeah, it sucks that we sent a Minkah Fitzpatrick away, but I think it helped the culture more than a Minkah Fitzpatrick would have helped on the field at that time. Because were we going to be significantly better with him? I mean, come on, maybe a little, but I mean, at the end of the day, we still weren't going to be a good football team. Love to have him now. Would love to have him now. And I think, he was going to be a big part of that. But you trade him because he wasn't fitting in the culture. He wasn't buying in. And at the end of the day, I think that was more important. He
wanted to be good now.
Yeah, of course. And hey, I don't blame him.
No, exactly.
He's got to make the best decision for him.
It's hard.
I have no hard feelings.
Y'all made the right choice. You made the choice at the time that was just like, damn, why?
But we got a first-round pick out of it. We're able to turn it into a left tackle. So, I mean, we'll see what happens there. It's just another piece. So, I don't know. I think it's a masterclass. I really think they could not have done anything better. Let's move away from cap space, because now we're just getting into, project. Every team is supposed to have a positive cap number. It's interesting to talk about the teams that don't.
Since it went down, because now it's about to bounce back.
Exactly. And this was projected for what they are expecting that bounce back to be, but we obviously don't know the exact numbers.